Good morning. I'm Monica Hernandez in for Adam Sexton. As the state continues dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, many Granite Staters are bracing for what life will be like as school gets back in session. Will we see a bump in cases? Will the economy slow again or businesses need to close? And what lies ahead for the winter? With us to discuss what's happening in their cities are Mayors Caroline McCarley of Rochester and Mayor Paul Grenier of Berlin. Welcome and thank you both for joining us.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely. And Mayor McCarley, let's start with you because some of the children in Rochester have already started going back to school. What's that been like so far, and have there been any lessons learned here?
You know, I think the school that opened, Maple Street, has had a very good week. People were upbeat about how the week has gone. I think the hardest thing, though, for all of us is that we just don't know, on a daily basis what might happen next. But I think the school department has done all that it possibly can to have things be safe for students and teachers. And I think there is a huge eagerness here for our teachers to be seeing our students again. And I think a lot of our parents feel the same way.
And Mayor Grenier, in Berlin, parents are getting a choice whether their kids go back in person or go remote. With a relatively low number of cases in Berlin, is there a concern that if kids return to class, cases could rise?
Well, the population in Berlin generally has taken this situation very, very seriously. You will see up and down Main Street and in stores in town, people masked up. We've been very fortunate that we've had a very low number of cases. So our schools and the Board of Education in Berlin have really devised a two-step process to bring our kids back. And I have to say that our superintendent of schools, the principals, and the Berlin Board of Education has done a very superior job in bringing our kids back. And, remote learning is great and it has its advantages. But, kids need the social interaction and working hand in hand with teachers live. So I think it's very important that kids, are in the classroom physically. I think it's very important.
And Mayor McCarley, let's turn now to businesses in your community. How has COVID-19 impacted them and the ongoing plans to revitalize the downtown district?
It's been interesting. One of the things that our restaurants chose to do is ask the city to be more flexible about outdoor dining. We like a lot of communities, don't have big sidewalks and there wasn't room for tables and umbrellas, but we relaxed some of that so they could indeed be back in business. And it's been a huge success. The downtown actually looks as pretty as it has ever looked with umbrellas and chairs and tables outside. And I think we're going to have to figure out next year how to do that again. But it was primarily because our restaurants came to us and said, we've got to be able to see more people or we're not going to make it. So it's been good. Like I said, it's been challenging, certainly, and we're now trying to pick an entertainment piece for all of the restaurants. We'll have to see how that goes. But overall, we're generally concerned about all of our small businesses downtown. But this has, oddly enough, worked in a very positive way.
Some creative solutions there. And Mayor Grenier, you've said that if the federal government doesn't provide some help to state and local communities like yours, Berlin is expecting to lose not just potential funding at the federal level, but also state funds that you had budgeted for. So what will happen if the federal government doesn't step in to help?
From the Berlin budget standpoint, I think in this current fiscal year of July 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2021, I think we'll be okay. I think we budgeted very conservatively, and we have a better than average undesignated fund balance. But I'm definitely afraid of what happens in fiscal year 2022, which begins next July. Berlin is very dependent on state aid to education. And if that dries up or if we lose a significant portion of that because the state didn't get revenue, we're going to be in another desperate time. So I've asked the Berlin Board of Education to look forward into next year to plan for the worst, and hopefully it doesn't come to pass. But Governor Sununu and the state legislature is kind of caught in the pickle too. How do you fund a state budget with the Department of Safety and other vital services if you don't know where the revenue is coming from? So the impasse in Washington has to get settled out so the state and municipalities can move forward.
And Mayor McCarley, how is the pandemic impacting Rochester's budget? Is that impacting any projects or city services like fire, EMS, and police?
We've certainly been able to put in for reimbursement on some of those expenses for the past fiscal budget. And like Berlin, we budget-wise are in okay shape this year, have fund balance. But as he said, we're certainly concerned as this goes on about people's ability to pay their property taxes. Those have come in fine for July, for the first half of billing, but the end of the year could be different, which will clearly impact next year's budget. So we have some real concerns. But again, we've also got a fair amount, and you mentioned it earlier, of revitalization going on downtown with some major commercial building projects, and those are on schedule. We just approved the final part of a huge rebuild of two of our old buildings with Eric Schinberg, and actually just signed off on that yesterday, and he's planning on starting in September. So we're trying to be positive. I think our biggest concern, or one of my biggest concerns right now, is what's going to happen in terms of homelessness and eviction rates, because we just don't know what it's going to look like. And we're trying to set up some conversations with landlords just to get a feel for what might be coming now that the eviction situation has changed.
That is going to be something definitely to keep an eye on, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Mayor Grenier, as we said, Berlin has seen a relatively low number of cases. You said many people in the community have been taking those measures to stay safe, but what's the biggest challenges to making sure that people continue to do that, don't get complacent here?
Well, I think we're continuing to drive the message home that, the North Country has a very limited supply of hospital beds and other services, that if we get inundated, we will be overrun virtually overnight. And people have taken that message very seriously. I'm also a county commissioner, and I can tell you that long-term care facilities, we have two of them in Berlin. We have one run by the county, the other one run by Catholic Charities. And to date, we have not had one single resident test positive. And it's because of, people taking it seriously. Employees are taking it seriously. The North Country, we're in our own little world up here. And, we don't have folks don't believe, they may have doubts on the severity, but generally the people in Berlin and Gorham in the area are very compliant when it comes to this.
All right, and I want to ask both of you, in this challenging time, we've talked about some of those obstacles, those challenges, but for both of you, is there anything in particular that you found has worked as far as an approach to fighting COVID-19 and the issues surrounding it? Mayor McCarley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, and I would echo Mayor Grenier, that certainly I think the three communities, Dover, Somersworth, and Rochester, that's a fair few people. The mayors have worked quite closely together to consistently put out messages about the importance of the science and the research around masks and social distancing, and people have been very obliging about it. And I think we were lucky in that we had a health officer and a city manager who said, well before the March shutdown, folks, we got a problem. Our health officer started meeting with the housing authority, long-term care facilities, and we didn't have a single case in any of our long-term care facilities or in the housing authority apartments. So I think people have taken it very seriously. I think your question was good, though, Monica, that we all do get worried that you get a little bit complacent. But I think with school opening, everybody is much more hyper-focused on it again. And I think that's probably a good thing, because the science is telling us going into the fall, we could see more problems. So it's it's not going away anytime soon.
That's for sure. And Mayor Grenier, anything that you've done that you think has worked particularly well, very quickly here?
Well, let's not understate the leadership of Governor Sununu in this. Unlike other governors in some other states, he was forthright right from the beginning, and he set the tone and the message that communities and people who reside in the state have to take this seriously. So it's been a lot easier for us as community leaders to follow the governor's lead, because he has been so proactive in keeping this situation at bay. We could have been living with a governor that did not take this seriously, and I think our issues would have been a whole lot worse.
Mayor Caroline McCarley of Rochester and Mayor Paul Grenier of Berlin, thank you both so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
it's a pleasure to be here.